I think the reach of this championship, this is a global event. The golfing world will be watching this event. The Waste Management in Scottsdale is a significant event on the PGA Tour schedule. I mean, I think everyone would agree with that.
But it's a local party.
It's a local party. This is a global party. It will be the most broadcast major championship in PGA of America history. It's significant to the golfing world. And that's a big difference, I think, the magnitude of the major.
Golf Smarter number 711 is brought to you by Autoslash.com, the completely free service that saves users up to 30% on their next car rental. Just make sure that when you register, you have every one of your special membership codes and frequent flyer numbers so that they can track that extra savings that come with those programs. So whether you're renting a car for business or pleasure, make sure you use their tracker and save with Autoslash.com. Preparing TPC Harding Park for the 2020 PGA Championship with course GM Tom Smith.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Tom.
Fred, how you doing? Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, thanks for making the time. I know this is a busy time for you. A really busy time for you.
It is. It seems like every day is getting busier. I wish the days got longer. Unfortunately, the time change is coming up, so it's going to fall back. I don't know if I lose or gain time. It's hard to keep track of sometimes.
I can imagine. I can only imagine. Let's start with a little bit of history about yourself, and then we'll get to what we're talking about. So you're the general manager of TPC Harding Park in San Francisco.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am.
How long have you been doing that?
About 10 years here at Harding. So
okay.
Previous to that, I came from TPC Scottsdale down in Scottsdale, Arizona. A lot of golfers listening will know that golf course. And there's a little party they have down there in January.
Just a little
one. I think last year they had about 600,000 spectators. So
not on Sunday.
Not on Sunday. But
that's what's amazing about how the place, it's like this tournament's building and nobody shows up on Sunday because it's always Super Bowl Sunday.
Right. There's definitely a little dip in attendance on Sunday. That's for sure. But that's where I kind of cut my teeth in the golf industry. It's a spectacular market, spectacular event, very worthy cause there in Phoenix that it supports. So it was really a privilege to learn what it means to host and put on a PGA Tour event on a massive scale. So when you consider a major championship we're about to host, it really is I'm going to draw on that toolbox a lot as we get closer and closer to the tournament.
Sure. Well, that's so interesting because, you're prepping for a major, and what you've done in the past seems to be so much bigger as far as facility and guests and all those things. The Waste Management Phoenix Open, there's nothing like it. It is the party of golf.
I suppose you're right. I suppose you're right. The sheer size of that event from an attendance standpoint is most certainly larger. I think the impact on the game of golf and on all golf spectators is certainly greater with a major championship. So that intensifies everything around the championship. Everything needs to be major quality, major caliber. It's not just another tournament. This is a major. There's only 4 of them. It's a rarity to be having a situation where a public golf course is hosting a major. So definitely there's a lot of emphasis on us executing and delivering for a major championship. But I think that my time at TPC Scottsdale really honed my acumen for a large event. I mean, PGA Tour events are a great thing to experience. I'm sure a lot of listeners have. They're a great thing to work and to organize and to put together. So working an event like the Waste Management Phoenix Open, the scale of that really helped me when it comes time to plan and work the PGA Championship.
Well, then I have to believe that the PGA went, oh, well, let's go to Harding because Tom's there and he's done this forever.
Sure,
this is going to be easy for us.
Exactly how the
I'm sure it was all because of you.
I'm sure that's how it went. Actually, no, it's quite a fun story to me personally. I was involved with a lot of the negotiations on the front end. So we started meeting with the PGA of America back in early 2014. I got a call from Kerry Haig on my voicemail, and I called him right back, and he said he'd be here in the Bay Area and wanted to come out and look at the golf course. And at that time, I had no idea what his intent was. And I later learned that there were a few discussions at a very high level between the PGA Tour and the PGA of America when considering venues for future PGA Championships. The PGA, as it turned out, had been here on the West Coast since the late 70s. At that time, there were only a few public or daily fee golf courses that held the PGA Championship, let alone a municipal golf course. So, and the lack of significant presence of the PGA America on the West Coast really kind of lined up for San Francisco, major city, global market, global destination. I mean, people see the Golden Gate Bridge and they know it's San Francisco. And there's so much more here than just golf, but there is a very, very deep history of golf here in the Bay Area. Great architecture, great tournament champions have come out of this marketplace. So it made sense. Everything kind of lined up. So it was almost a light bulb moment. Like, why aren't we doing this? So that kind of led us down the path of the discussions with the PGA of America, the PGA Tour, and the great city of San Francisco. One of the special things about this property is it is a municipal golf course. So it's owned and manicured by the city itself. The citizens, help fund the mechanisms out here. So we're very cognizant of that. It's really a pretty cool example of a community public golf course, not only in how it's used, but how it's funded, the back end financial performance of it. It's really a good model. And then if you look into the first tee, it gets even better. So we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. So you can see it was a very attractive venue for the PGA of America. And that's really what kind of teed up everything, so to speak.
No pun intended. Yeah. But you're a par 5 away from a course that has hosted multiple majors.
Sure. Yeah, the
Olympic Club. You can see Olympic Club from a number of your holes. Why did they not pick an obvious choice?
Boy, that's a great question. And look, golf, like it or not, golf has some very, very strong stereotypes that are kind of laid onto itself. It's viewed as a rich, predominantly white male sport. And the truth is, it's just not that anymore. That's not the case. And right. So certainly the Olympic Club is a very resume golf course, and what a treat it is to play over there. They themselves are a very diverse golf course. If you're to ever play over there and just stand on the putting green and see the people that are coming and going, you're going to see people of all walks of life. But it was really time for
But that's because we're in San Francisco.
That's true. And I recognize it's not always that case everywhere else in the world. But the PGA recognized the importance of bringing diversity to their own championship, as did the PGA Tour and the city, of course, San Francisco. So it was past time to hold a major championship at a public venue because of the importance on inclusivity and diversity in golf. So it's going to be just that. It's the community golf course. It's our golf course. The pros are coming to play our golf course. It's a course accessible to everybody. So that's what makes it very, very special. And the PGA recognized the power and importance with that message and supporting that to keep the championship alive and going, but also the industry.
I grew up in Southern California. I moved to San Francisco to go to San Francisco State University, which is directly across the street from the 11th hole.
It is.
My dorm was directly across the street, and at the time I was not a golfer, so I never once walked onto the course, or like the people in my dorm, I never once climbed over the fence to do drugs in the middle of the night.
I hear some pretty funny stories from golfers that say something similar to that. They hopped the fence or walked through a hole in the fence and played 3 or 4 holes, or took a date out onto the golf course. You hear the whole spectrum.
I didn't want to bring that one up.
So,
because you're not going to go in the dorm room when you're sharing a room with somebody else. Let's go to the park.
But I think, all the more that makes this property so special, right? it's a golf course, yes, but it's really a community park. If you think about it, it's active, it's alive, it's got its own heartbeat, and the stories like you just mentioned, and countless other stories of people that have either walked through here, run through here, boated on the lake, perhaps, maybe came out to the Boathouse Sports Bar that used to be here back in the '80s when you could watch the 49ers winning Super Bowls left and right. That was a place to be.
Yeah.
By the way, they're looking pretty good this year, but
fingers crossed.
Again, that kind of mirrors what I was talking about with diversity of the PGA's interest in this property. It's not just a golf course. This is really about using golf using golf as a vehicle to a much greater good, and that's changing society, changing our culture, making us more engaged to our fellow human beings, and I really think that's a deep rooted special thing about this property. Because a lot of golf courses, they build those really nice fences, but you can't get in. Even at night, if you wanted to get in, it's tough. Yeah. So this is really the other way. It's really more open. Come on in. We want to have you come in and enjoy the golf course, enjoy the property. Even if you're not golfing, maybe you're just dining here or, like I said, walking through. And like I said, it was overdue to have a major championship at a venue like this.
Couldn't agree with you more. But there are a lot of things that you said I need to question. But before we do that, I just want to say this episode of the Golf Smarter podcast is brought to you by Autoslash.com. Autoslash is a booking hack that helps you when you need to rent a car. Now, think about going on a golf trip. Maybe you're coming to San Francisco for the PGA Championship. But if you're going on a golf trip, you're not going to be using Uber. You're not going to be using Lyft. You're definitely going to be renting a car if you're bringing your clubs with you, right? And if you're on a buddy trip, you may need a minivan. Well, that can get expensive because car rentals, they get you. They know when you're coming. That's why Autoslash is so awesome, because once you've reserved your car, you go to autoslash.com, you enter your information, you enter a little bit of a profile that asks for your membership numbers like Costco or AAA or your frequent flyer numbers, because they get discounts and they're going to help find lower prices for you. Then you put in what car you want, how much you've booked it for, and what company you're renting it from. And you can put specifics in, I want to stay with this company, or I definitely want this car. The car company is going to tell you, or a similar model, right? Once you give that information, between the time you've done that and when you're going to rent your car, you're going to get updates from Autoslash on a regular basis on lowering your price. And then if you get a lower price and you like it, you go back, you cancel the car you had, you rent this car at this price, you let Autoslash know again, and they'll continue to give you emails saying we found lower prices. And the average user saves up to 30% on a car rental. And most of the time, if you're going to rent a minivan for you and your buddies for golf or a truck or whatever, that could pay for another round of golf. Doesn't that make sense? So please check them out at Save Money and save time and save a lot of hassle. Autoslash.com. It's really worth your effort. Autoslash is AUTOSLASH, autoslash.com. We thank them very much for their continued support. Tom, tell me more about your relationship with San Francisco and San Francisco's relationship with Harding Park.
As San Franciscans, we're very prideful of our open space and our green space, and that spans the whole spectrum from Camp Mather to Golden Gate Park. You just look at Golden Gate Park and all the recreational activities, outdoor green space that it has to offer. And golf is certainly has a place within that portfolio. So I think public funded entities are always going to be scrutinized as they probably should be. But the city also has an obligation to provide back to its citizens, great recreational activity, great outdoors areas. And I think San Francisco does a very good job of that. Again, if you look at Golden Gate Park, the baseball, soccer, botanical gardens, the museums, all sorts of stuff there, including golf. So golf certainly has a place in that portfolio. And I think that's pretty neat.
Well, all that is beautiful and wonderful, but as a supporter of municipal and public golf courses, meaning I don't belong to a country club, how long do we get to play at Harding Park before you shut it down, which I'm assuming gets done once the PGA takes over? And what kind of surprises am I going to have as I'm playing the course over the next few months? Because I'm sure you know how many days we are out at this point.
We are.
Before the
we
event.
are. We've got a countdown clock in our golf shop. We're just a little over 200 days away. So I think actually last Friday was our 7-month time mark right there. So, boy, you're going to see an awful lot over the next 7 months. So first of all, to answer your question, yes, the golf course will have to close prior to the PGA Championship. And that's just to put the final touches on a lot of things. Not only the golf course, the final mows, gives us the last chance to run some water where we need to run it, get the bunkers raked just perfect, get everything agronomically on point, but then also to complete the build out. There's a substantial build out here, and you gotta envision the hundreds of thousands of people that will be coming through the property. You know, you need a place to buy a little merchandise and to sit down and watch some golf and use the facilities, that sort of stuff. So there's a massive build, a better part of 2,000 trucks that'll be coming here to build that infrastructure. So that infrastructure has to be built. So that will start in early 2020. We don't know the exact date, but best guess is going to probably be in March sometime, where you'll start to see some build out happening. And our goal is the whole secret sauce in my world is to keep the golf course open and playable as long as possible. So we having,
Sure.
those build outs going on, amongst play on, not on the fairway, of course, but over in the sides where you typically see tents for tournaments. They'll be building those tents, constructing those tents. So that'll probably start in March. Then the golf course will actually close just a few weeks prior to the actual tournament itself. And that's, again, to get the final touches on all that infrastructure and get the golf course in tip-top shape. So you're going to see some difficulty also coming in if you're playing the golf course. In addition to seeing this infrastructure going up, remember, it's a major championship. So we have to get the golf course major caliper ready, which means it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. We actually internally debated, should we put a sign on the first tee, aka, Bethpage Black? This course is really hard. You're about to embark on a very difficult, strenuous journey. Are you ready? We kind of thought about doing that, but we elected not to at this particular time. But yeah, but the golf course is going to be hard. People have already commented on the difficulty of the golf course. So as we sit today, the fairway widths have already been established, and they average about 22 yards wide, a premium on driving accuracy. The rough,
Wow.
The rough is being grown up and matured. In the end, we want it consistent and challenging. So we're trying to get it, I think it's going to be about 3.5 to 4 inches come tournament time, somewhere in that vicinity. But we're looking for density and plant health right now. So a lot going on. Again, this is not my crew. This is the City of San Francisco team that's doing this. We have various consultants from the PGA and the PGA Tour. But at the end of the day, the city rec and park employees are maintaining the golf course and gearing up. And they're doing a fantastic job of gearing up for the championship. But it will become inherently more difficult the closer you get to championship.
But it's usually, from what I recognize, it's the U.S. Open that is, they create the course to be so challenging and difficult, and they're really striving to have these guys be as close to par as possible and none of this 20 under business at the end of the weekend. Are there directives that come from the PGA for this championship of what they want from you? Is this your golf course that you're going to make it the way you want?
That is a fantastic question. I'll tell you how that process works. So Kerry Haig is the director of competitions there at the PGA of America, director of the championship. So he's been here many times. We walked the golf course. We've been early morning with a clipboard and a yardage book. And it's been a small group with usually myself, Kerry Haig, and some folks from the city agronomy team, from the maintenance team. And we begin to look at the golf course. And one of the questions that was asked of him is, are you trying to set this up to get an end score, i.e. even par or 5 under? And he said, absolutely not. I'm trying to lay out a golf course that's going to be a fair yet major caliber challenge test for these players. And that was what he said. He said, absolutely not. He's not trying to set a golf course up to hit a target score. He wants it to be fair yet challenging, premium on good shots. Misses will test the players to have to recover. So that was his answer to that question. We have done a few changes to the golf course. Now, a day-to-day player may not see it. We've added 5 tee boxes to lengthen the golf course out. It'll play just under 7,400 yards if you were to play it from the tips. It'll be a par 70. So number 9 will be a par 4 and number 12 will be a par 4. And that par 70 combined with that length will still provide enough length challenge for the modern player. And then the narrowing of the fairways and the length of the rough will also make for a more competitive environment for a major. It's pretty neat. We thought a little bit differently about the property when we looked at it. We have the traditional layout of the fairways. For example, there might be a bunker just outside the fairway line. And so we've shifted fairways towards the bunker to make it a little bit more challenging from a competitive standpoint. Not unfair, not unreasonable, but definitely on par with a major test. We also used our previous tour events that we've held here. We have all the shot length data from those events. So we literally had an iPad with us when we were walking the golf course, and we could see every shot where it went on a particular hole. And because of that, we could really kind of laser focus, the competitive elements of each shot, each hole, to really produce a great venue, a great layout for the golf course.
Awesome. It's so exciting. How much of the experience of the President's Cup that was hosted at Harding Park, 10 years ago?
Yeah, 10 years ago. 2009.
10 years ago. Yeah, okay. So I remember being there for that and just walking around recording the sounds of a golf tournament.
Sure.
And remember sitting on one of the par 3s, sitting in the stands, and it's like, okay, as a listener, you listen to the crowd reactions and tell me what happened. And it was so odd. I mean, it's like baseball and golf. You can really tell what's going on by listening to a crowd.
Sure, you can.
You don't even have to be looking.
And, we're excited about that. We hope those roars come. We know they will, but we hope they're heard in the same regard you just mentioned. One of the neatest things about this property is the size. So our total acreage here is about 130 acres, right, in total. That includes the golf course, the fairways, the greens, everything.
And you have a little 9-hole in the middle of all of that.
We have the floating great 9-hole golf course, by the way. You hit every club in your bag in 9 holes. And good luck breaking par. It's
crazy.
Tough. It's a good little golf course. That will actually be the professional practice area for the players come championship.
Oh, wow.
So we'll convert 3 of those holes over there for it to be the practice area for those players.
Very cool.
But the total landmass here is about 130 acres. To put that in perspective, Belle Reve, which was the site of the 100th PGA Championship in St. Louis, it's well over 400 acres. So we're barely a third of the size. I didn't compare us to Bethpage because Bethpage is a massive property, miles from. they had to shuttle players to 10 tee box. It was about a 2-mile ride in a vehicle to get to the tee. But just to put it in perspective, we're about the third of the size of a typical major venue. So with that comes a little bit of logistical challenge trying to fit all the pieces in here, including a golf course. But the spectator is going to be the ultimate winner with this, because you can sit in one location and you can see 4, 5, maybe even 6 holes, and not just see them, but we're talking pretty close proximity. You can sit down and you can see a green, a tee box, and a fairway within 120 yards. So that's pretty good. And then you talk about the roars. I mean, the roars hopefully will just exude through the whole golf course at that point. But it's going to be arguably the most viewer-friendly major championship in history.
Yeah, but is that the spot where the biggest corporate tents will be so that the public can't go there?
That's a good question, too. No. The answer is no, believe it or not. So,
good for you, man.
We did good with that one.
Yeah.
So credit to the PGA of America for recognizing that. I don't know the specifics because that's their own business, but I can speak to the sheer number of tents. They're reduced from their normal footprint, because they understand that the spectator that's part of the public aspect of this golf course. The spectator, the GA, the general admission spectator, like myself, like you and I, we need to be able to get right into those hot spots on the golf course. So every hole will be accessible in that fashion. There'll be either bleachers or rope lines that all spectators can get right up to. As a matter of fact, even one step farther, unless you have one of those hospitality venues on the property, which again, there's very few, there's only one ticket. There's not different tiers of tickets. There's only one ticket. You buy a ticket, you're in the championship. So it's designed to be more accommodating to the masses. As a matter of fact, we're doing something completely different. We're putting 5 groves in around the property, and the trees are amazing here, but we're calling them groves. Translated, it's going to be like a little beer garden. There'll be 5 of those. Cool. Anybody can go. Cool. Any ticket that gets in the gate can go there. You don't need a special ticket to get there. So you'll have a nice area with seating, with jumbotrons, a food and beverage experience there, and you'll be able to sit there and watch 2 to 3 holes at a time from that venue. So again, the PGA really embraced the property, really embraced San Francisco, and access, in all angles. So pretty exciting stuff.
Very exciting stuff. Hey, we're going to take another quick time out. We'll be right back. So how long have you been at this full time? I mean, once the deal was done, you guys must have just all hands on deck. Let's go.
Not really, actually. So we announced in 2014, July of 2014 was the official announcement, and it was kind of backburnered. Realistically, I would say probably 2017 is when conversations started to kind of begin again. The PGA usually has about a 2-year cycle for all of the championships. They bring the team on in market, and then they work for 2 years on that championship. So that was the timeline. We were right on timeline. What we had a curveball thrown at us was the shuffling of the majors, the tournament season. So last year was the first, I should say this year, 2019, was the first year where the PGA Championship moved from August to May. And I know a lot of that's out for debate, right? I think the players like it, but there's a little bit of opposition to that.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
Personally, yeah. I think it's
But when you originally were talking about this, were you talking about having it in August?
We were.
Ooh, boy, that throws a wrench.
Basically 4 years we were talking about it being in August. And people might say, well, what's 60 days going to be? What does that make a difference on? Huge difference, because now we're backing into winter. They're starting in February, March. So if it's a really rainy season, luckily it doesn't snow here. So we don't have to worry about that. But we still have to worry about wet conditions, winter conditions. Also grass health. Will the grass be, if it has a tough winter, how healthy will it be coming into the spring? And will the greens be as smooth and as fast as they need to be come a spring tournament? All those questions kind of came about. That's a much different conversation than August. August is the end of your summer season here. So you've got a lot different growing situation there. You're not building in the cold weather or the rain. So it definitely threw a curveball to us. It basically moved us forward, not quite a year, but it fast forwarded us the better part of 8 to 10 months on the front end, just logistically planning, partnerships, conversations that need to take place on many, many levels to make sure we could move it 60 days ahead of schedule. So that was what put the compression on our timeline. So even though we started discussions again in about 2017, we almost we lost some time because of that shift. So things really accelerated, particularly in late 2018, August 2018.
The winters the last few years here in Northern California have been varied.
Sure.
to be kind, where we had a really wet one in the last year, maybe 2, but then we had 5-6 years of nothing. What are either of those happening this year? Do we have any sense of what it might be? We can't predict, but how do you adjust? How do you plan for those variables?
Boy, we wish we could read a crystal ball somewhere that would tell us what that is. But
it's called the Farmer's Almanac.
I mean, that's about the closest thing we have. Both of those present challenges, right? Mm-hmm. And they have to be navigated very carefully because either a dry winter that's warm or a cold winter that's very, very wet, either one of those scenarios can lead to downstream effects that would negatively impact the championship. If it's raining, it's going to be tougher to build on the golf course, build all that infrastructure. It's going to be soft turf conditions, so anything that's out there is going to cause more damage, more ruts from trucks, forklifts, all that kind of stuff. The fairways will be okay, right? But the greens will be okay, but all the surrounds will be compromised if it's a very, very wet year. It's almost unavoidable, right? So now the converse of that with a dry, warm winter is we're going to have an extraordinary amount of play. People are going to play all winter long. That means more divots, more foot traffic. You've got lower temperatures in general in the wintertime. So you've got, that nice short grass on the greens is getting more, twice as much feet on it, more ball marks, just more mowing, more wear and tear. And so it's going to be a little, behind the curve coming into spring. So if we could just write the weather exactly like we would like an average winter with perhaps slightly more rain. That would probably be ideal for the lead up to championship.
Yeah. Even though you have experience in planning a large scale PGA tournament, what has surprised you about preparing for this event?
I think the reach of this tournament, the reach of this championship, kind of goes back to what I commented earlier. This is a global event. The golfing world will be watching this event. The Waste Management in Scottsdale is a significant event on the PGA Tour schedule. I mean, I think everyone would agree with that.
But it's a local party.
It's a local party. This is a global party. This is, there's a new broadcasting agreement in place with CBS and ESPN. It will be the most broadcast major championship in PGA Tour, PGA of America history.
Congratulations.
So it's significant. We're going to have both of those major networks here on site, and they will be broadcasting. I don't even know how many hundreds of hours they're going to be broadcasting, but it's every shot from every player. So you could dial in and you could watch Dustin Johnson's very first shot to his very last shot. So those mechanisms will be available out there to the consumer that will be watching this. And then you look at the number of people that will be watching this tournament, and it's in the billions, and with a B. It's significant to the golfing world. And that's a big difference. I think the magnitude of the major coming from where I came from at Scottsdale.
Yeah. I mean, for the last couple of years, when there's a major, I download the app and I'm watching everything I can off of the app, Absolutely. Whether it's live or, the live broadcast or the various holes or the various groups or even recaps.
Absolutely.
I mean, I live on those things as they come out, and then I erase it immediately when the event's over.
It's great. That app is quite handy, not only for what you said, but also when you're here on property. I've used it every year. I've been to the PGA Championship, and it's great because you can get live time notifications about what might be happening 4 holes over. So, I mean, the golf is finally catching up to, our technology, our cell phones, our watches, etc. And
hey, they're headed out to Silicon Valley, man.
That's right.
As opposed to being in Phoenix, which is Silicon Valley. Not going there. And what would surprise the consumer, the golfer? What would surprise us about Harding Park preparing for a PGA Championship that was like, oh, I didn't realize that, but blank.
Right now you'd probably. The difficulty of the golf course is probably the first thing you wouldn't realize how hard that golf course really is. Until you hit that first shot out of the rough and it goes about 10 feet and you just don't know how the heck those guys do it. That's probably the biggest thing. And again, because it's a public golf course, a lot of people haven't experienced that. They haven't hit a shot into 3.5-inch rough and, been 175 yards out. So that's going to be probably the most eye-opening thing, I would think, from the golfer's standpoint when they see it.
How soon after the event is the course open again to the public?
Tuesday. So
wow. May 19th.
May 19th. Yep. May 19th. So we don't have that inventory available yet for public consumption. We have inventory available to April 1st, so you can book a tee time all the way to April 1st. But after April 1st, we're kind of in a holding pattern right now until the final things are situated with the PGA, and we'll open it up as soon as possible. So our goal is to have the golf course full of public on Tuesday. Back at it.
And how has business been since the announcement that you guys are hosting a major? Did you see a shift in business or an increase in business from not just local, because I know that you have local rates and you have various rates there, but from people traveling in town and whatnot? Have you seen a change?
We definitely have. A lot of traveling people. I would say what we've seen is longer range booking. In other words, people know they're coming to San Francisco 2 or 3 months in advance, and they're booking their tee time then. That's been a significant shift we've seen here in our business levels. What we're seeing is obviously the Bay Area. Monterey is not too far away, so we get a lot of bookend visitors. So they'll either fly in and play us the day they fly in, or play us the day they fly out, and they'll put a few trips down to Monterey in between. That's what we're seeing. And so certainly we're able to capitalize on that just natural ebb and flow of their visitors, but we're on that radar of the traveling golfer now. We're optimistic that the PGA Championship will really project Harding into a totally new trajectory for its golfing consumer. I think back to Bethpage, a little bit out of their history. And I don't think a lot of people knew about Bethpage that didn't live in New York until they hosted the U.S. Open in the early 2000s. And now it's
right.
it comes to the top of the list if you're going to be playing. So we're optimistic that we have that kind of an effect, or some sort of an effect like that. And it continually comes to the top of the list when you're coming to Monterey to play those great courses down there. You're going to want to play another public major championship right here at TPC Harding Park.
Awesome. You mentioned about when you've been out at various PGA championships that you use the app to help figure out what's going on live all around you, which is one of the things, honestly, as somebody who suffers from ADD, professional golf tournaments are very hard for me, because I know that no matter what's going on, it's happening somewhere else on the property. And I'm like, I can't handle all this at once. So that's my problem. But are phones going to be allowed on the course? Because that's what everybody's camera is these days, what do you do about that? Because I've heard of other majors and other PGA events where cameras are not allowed.
Good question. Phones are actually encouraged. They have a courtesy policy, for lack of a better term. There's I guess a decorum policy with cell phone usage. Keeping them on silent, not filming when the player is hitting, et cetera, et cetera. But as far as taking pictures of a beautiful golf hole with people standing around it, I think they're encouraging that, and they're also encouraging you to follow.
And then post them onto social media. Right. Let them know you're there.
The viral effect is certainly something that the championship has embraced, and they want people to be plugged in and engaged, and they want people to follow the app and see what's going on. I think more so now than ever, the golfing consumer can really get up close and inside the rope, so to speak, with some of the technology. They can hear from the players straight away. They can hear from the PGA straight away. All of those entities have social platforms that they're actively engaging, and it's really meant for clarity of information and just to share the excitement. It's something you can't say enough good things about. So they're encouraging people to do that, and it is a valuable tool when you are on property. But still, there's a decorum that's expected and maintained.
Well, golf etiquette.
There you go, golf etiquette.
Right?
You got it.
Golf etiquette from the viewpoint of the bystander side. And I also have to believe that that's also really valuable because it'll allow people to not drive to the event because of Uber and Lyft and even cab service there.
Well, I think, San Franciscans are...
What about the parking situation for you guys?
Things are still developing, as we know right now, that those things have not been 100% solidified. But if one thing is for sure, San Franciscans find a way to get there. And I think whether you walk, run, ride a bike, take one of the ride shares, people are going to find their way here. And geographically speaking, I mean, we're 7.5 miles from downtown San Francisco. So it might take a long time to get out here, but geographically it's very close. So I don't have all those answers.
7.5 miles. Wait a minute. San Francisco is only 7 miles by 7 miles.
I've got to go on a diagonal.
Okay. It's like you're in the water at that point.
We're pretty close. We're pretty close to the water out here. But
you really
are. If you take a page out of the Giants and out of the Warriors, their parking solutions there's not enough parking spaces for how many seats there are in the stadium, yet they can regularly fill those venues. And I think we'll see something similar to that. Here, the locals, we know how to get around. And so we'll find a way to get here. I think the people that are coming from out of town, they'll embrace it. It's our mode of locomotion, and they'll figure out how to get here. Obviously, the PGA is going to go through good communication efforts to let people know where that does end up. But as we know today, that's I'm not entirely sure. So to answer your question, but people will come. Trust me, people will come.
One of the things I remember about the President's Cup was that the first tee box was on the 10th hole. Is there a layout change happening for this event?
There's not. And that was discussed.
Really?
There's not. So
wow.
The reason that it was changed for the President's Cup and for the 2015 match play is because both of those events had different formats, right? And
so they wanted to end it right in front of the corporate tents on 15, 16, 17.
We wanted to make sure that every group got to play 16, 17, 18 because those are our signature holes, phenomenal holes. So we had to reroute the golf course to make sure that they were inclusive with those matches. For example, it's something like 70% of the matches in match play competition are done by hole number 16. So if we played our normal routing, only a few groups to play 17 and 18, but those are too great a holes to miss. So they wanted to reroute it. So that's why we had to do the reroute on President's Cup and match play. But since the PGA Championship is a stroke play event, it made sense to keep the layout as we know it. The course naturally builds in grandeur and difficulty as you move from 1 to 18, and 18 is definitely no slouch of a hole. We actually put a new tee box on that hole, so it's even more challenging than it's been.
Where?
The very, very back of the property. The city moved a fence.
Did you go past the fence?
No.
I'm remembering correctly.
It's right up against the fence. They shifted the fence about temporarily, and then we'll put it back. But they put it.
And they're hitting over water, right?
Yep.
Am I remembering the right hole?
Approximately 310 yard carry on the across the water to get to the fairway. But even at that point, you're still not able to see the green because of the way the angles work out. So it kind of takes one of the lines of play out of the player's bag and kind of pushes them to take on the bunkers on the right side of the fairway. So it makes it definitely a premium on two good shots to get to the putting surface.
Well, man, first of all, know that we're all rooting for you, that you survived this well and that it's a huge success. And we wish you the best of luck on the entire event, that entire weekend and everything leading up to it. And we appreciate your time so much. I know how valuable it is. So I really appreciate you spending this much time talking to me. Good luck.
You bet. I really appreciate it. It's not my story to tell. It's our story to tell. And so I want everyone to be a part of it. All San Francisco, all of the golfing community. It's a special year. It's a special event. and I couldn't think of a better venue to have that 2020 PGA Championship played at. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing everybody out here on the golf course, because we can come play it after all, right?
So in our next episode, we're giving away our last $100 Amazon gift card of 2019, courtesy of autoslash.com. Deadline to enter is Sunday, October 20, 2019 at midnight Pacific time, 3 a.m. Eastern. To enter, please go to golfsmarter.com and click on the giveaway banner at the top of the homepage and fill out the information so your name's on the list, and we'll pick you at random. And good luck to you. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, brought to you by TwoGuysWithGolfBalls.com and Autoslash.com, we feature a conversation with Mike Wilkerson. It was actually one of our very first listener requests, and this guy was taking lessons from Mike and wanted to know, how can you help us lower our scores from 100 yards and in? So important to know how to do that if you want to get some birdies and lower those scores. So get your free subscription for Golf Smarter Mulligans or Golf Smarter wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.